Hey guys. You are watching your anime world. How are you all? Please support to subscribe this channel for watching new interesting stories. So in this video, we will see what if Deku became the chainsaw-wielding hero. Here is short summary. Izuku Midoriya never gets the chance to impress All Might and inherit One for All. Instead, a devil listens to his dreams of becoming a hero and decides to make a contract. Make way for the chainsaw hero, Deku. But before we start, if you want more stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe and like this video. And if possible, share this video with your friends. Now let's start the story. Your quirk is so cool, Kachin, a small, green-haired boy exclaimed in awe. Small sparks and explosions blasted beautifully off the fingers of the boy in the spotlight, blinding the partly lit classroom with light every time. Bakugo continued his show with practiced ease, a smug smile showing on his face as the students below him erupted into a chorus of applause. Even the teachers were amazed. For a kid to have that much control over their quirk at such a young age, impressive to say the least. I wish I had a quirk like that, Tsubasa, a chubby child next to Bakugo, said. Izuku looked at Tsubasa with shining eyes. Your wings are awesome too, Tsubasa. And they were. The wings that protruded from Tsubasa's back allowed to actually fly, and considering they seemed to grow as he got older, the potential of his quirk was high enough for hero standards. Bakugo stopped his display. Tsubasa, what about your quirk, Deku? All the kids looked at the green-haired boy in silence, whereas the teachers winced. Now, Izuku is just a late bloomer, the teacher reassured with a smile. That's right. My mama told me people get quirks after they're 4 too. I'm going to the doctor today and he'll fix me right up, Izuku said adamantly. Bakugo put his chin up. HMPH, whatever it is, it won't be as good as mine. Izuku tightly held onto his All Might plushie with one hand as he was led into the doctor's room for testing. His other hand was occupied by the even tighter grasp of his mother. The doctor had finished his X-ray scan and had called them to his personal office. The sheer tension and worry of his mother was visible to everyone who walked past them, leaving them to wonder what happened for such an expression to appear on a kind-looking woman like her. The second the pair went inside the room, the doctor dropped the hammer. Your son is quirkless. Dread filled both mother and son as Izuku dropped his All Might plushie in shock. The green-haired boy was young, but he knew what the sentence meant. How? Me and Hishashi both have a quirk. Yes, if both parents have a quirk, there is a higher chance of their offspring to have a quirk as well, usually a form of one or both of their parents' quirk. Izuku beamed with hope. What the doctor said was good, right? So why did his mother's frown deepen? However, from the information we gathered as a result of the X-ray scans, we found that Izuku does have an extra joint in his pinky toe. What does that have to do with anything? The doctor took off his glasses in a dramatic fashion. Research has shown that anyone with 2 joints in their pinkies are practically always quirkless. His mother gasped in shock. Don't worry too much, Mrs. Midoriya. Having a quirk isn't that important in the modern world, I'm glad to say. Technology has advanced to the point where many quirks are becoming redundant. And I'm not trying to raise any false hope, but there have been cases where individuals gained quirks even with the extra. Please, his mother interrupted. Your help has been appreciated, doctor. We'll take our leave. The doctor only nodded resignedly. The pair left the room worse than how they entered. They exited the hospital quickly, not a single word ushered between the two. Inko felt ashamed. She had let her son down, and she had no idea what to say to cheer him up. As for Izuku, he was just sad. Kids don't have very complicated emotions. He wanted a quirk, and now he couldn't have one. He just wanted to be a hero like his role model. Mama, will I not be able to be a hero? Izuku asked, tears collecting in both his eyes. Inko froze while tears ran down her cheeks. I'm sorry, Izuku. At that moment, Izuku realized he forgot his All Might plushie back in the hospital. I guess it doesn't matter anymore, huh? Many years later. Izuku was at an all-time low when his idol, All Might himself, told him that he couldn't become a hero even when quirkless. He could deal with his classmates and Bakugo laughing at him when he said he wanted to go to UA, but it was different with All Might. But in a way, he could see why All Might said what he did. Being a hero without a quirk in a time of history like this was incredibly dangerous. When villains have quirks which could blow up buildings with a snap, what could a gun realistically do? Deku could become a police officer and help protect people in other ways. A hero didn't have to have a flashy quirk. All Izuku wanted to do was help people like his idol did and continued to do so. Stray tears hit the ground as Izuku wandered randomly through the populated streets of Mustafu. He didn't care about where he was heading to. He just needed to get his mind off the incident from before. It was heartbreaking to even remind himself of what happened. He walked and walked, head facing the ground as his mind wandered from topic to topic, making sure to avoid one specific landmine, of course. His hand subconsciously and instinctively headed for his right pocket, where he normally placed his notebook, but the instant realization of its current situation kept his hand at bay. Although I guess, a sudden shock of pain blew him out of his thoughts. The area where his forehead made contact with the wall gleamed a fiery red. Izuku fell on his bottom softly, fortunately landing on his bag. Izuku looked around himself. Where was he? He currently rested in a dark alleyway with a few brands of light shining through, somehow landing on Izuku perfectly, making the scene rather cinematic in nature. He prepared to stand up when he heard something. Woof. A dog? He looked to the direction of the sound, expecting to find a skinny street puppy cutely looking up at him for food. Only to find something else entirely. Something stared back at him passively, its red body dull in the shadows of the garbage can next to it. Something akin to a handle was present on its back for a reason Izuku had no idea about, until he saw the most prominent feature on the creature's body. A chainsaw protruded from its face. Izuku screamed as he scrambled backwards on his knees, his back quickly reaching the wall behind him. But the creature did nothing but tilt its little head sideways, before barking once more. The green-haired boy had a relieving revelation. The thing in front of him was completely harmless. Izuku let out a bitter laugh. I really am hopeless. Getting scared by you of all things. How would I ever become a hero, let alone one like All Might? No wonder he calls me Deku. The creature's eyes sparkled with curiosity. Izuku did his best not to flinch as the creature moved forward, bringing the weapon on its forehead dangerously close to his stomach. He reluctantly let a hand down, petting the creature carefully. It's pretty funny, right? Me, a quirkless nobody, wanting to be someone like All Might. But I guess it was always a pipe dream. But I'm not really trying to pity myself. I mean, 20% of the population is quirkless. There's probably someone who's had it worse than me. But it's just so fun imagining being a hero, analyzing heroes and villains, making notes and a bunch of other things. I just wanted to smile like him while saving people with all my strength. Sometimes I wonder how unlucky I am. Both my parents have quirks, and the quirkless gene is recessive as it is. If only. Izuku looked back at the creature below him. Large eyes stared intently back at him. It was almost like it understood. Sorry for that, Izuku said bashfully, rubbing the back of his head with his spare hand. I ramble a lot sometimes. Why the hell am I talking to a dog? He looked at his watch, eyes widening in alarm. Crap. Mom's gonna get worried. I need to go. He grabbed onto the creature with both hands, preparing to place it next to him. It didn't budge. Izuku shaked it once more, but the creature stubbornly held on. Almost instantly after, Izuku felt something wash over him. I liked listening to your dreams, Deku. That's why I'm making this a contract. I'll become your heart. In exchange, become a hero for me. Izuku fell to the floor as the creature's weight increased. He looked in horror as the legs of the canine's legs spread into tentacles of red and began spreading over his chest quickly. His uniform quickly tore away around the spot before the creature began disappearing entirely into his body. Izuku screamed in terror as something filled his chest, before it felt empty once more. He faded into unconsciousness right after. Izuku woke up with a gasp. Sweat ran down his face as recent memories invaded his thoughts. What was that? Cold air hitting his body reminded him that he was bare-chested in the middle of nowhere. He looked down at his chest. Another scream echoed along the alleyway. A cord was stuck in the middle of his chest. Deku ran along the streets of Musutafu in panic. Bystanders around merely looked at him in curiosity. A shirtless boy with green hair certainly wasn't the strangest thing they've ever seen, but it definitely was up there. Izuku's adrenaline slowly decreased as his lackluster stamina began showing through. No longer driven by energy, he came to his senses. Embarrassment, of course, was a driving factor which led him to another alleyway, one that was more familiar to his memory as well. Izuku could only pant as a plethora of thoughts flooded his mind. What was going on? Thank God I escaped from that blonde brat. Izuku's ears perked. And escaping before All Might came. I'm quite a lucky bastard today. One look at the farthest corner of the alley made Izuku freeze. It was the sludge villain from before. Creepy, dead eyes looked at him. Oh, it's you. I'm giving you this option 'cause I'm in a good mood. Run away. Shoo, shoo. Izuku should have run away. It was the most sensible thing to do in that situation. He couldn't do anything against a real villain. What should he do? Throw his notes? Retaliating was practically begging for death. But something urged him to do something else. The weird feeling came once more. Pull me, Deku. Izuku held a trembling hand to the cord on his chest, and pulled with a single jerk of his arm. Brum brum brr. His entire body began morphing at once. His head transformed into a demonic, mechanical shape, the design accented by a raging chainsaw inserted on top. Jagged teeth lined the insides of his mouth. His arms looked like someone jammed two chainsaws in the middle of them, rendering his fingers completely useless. The weapon spun menacingly, filling the alleyway the alarming sound it produced. In place of the once timid boy stood a devil, and the devil's eyes radiated with bloodlust. The sludge villain looked at the thing before him in fear. And then the devil charged. I'm so nervous, Izuku said to himself as he stood panting before the monstrous building that was the UA before him. He grabbed his stomach anxiously, feeling for the cord that fell flat just below his ribs. It had been a weird 10 months, to say the least. Whatever the dog had done to him in that alleyway, he wasn't complaining in the slightest. Why would he? It had been his dream to have a quirk for as long as he could, and because of whatever contract the dog had made, he finally had a chance. Things were finally looking up for him. And his quirk wasn't too shabby either. Having chainsaws as arms, that was awesome. Izuku would have preferred it to be not as violent looking, however. He looked like more of a villain, to be honest. And that was why he hadn't used his quirk once since the sludge villain incident. Other than the one time he used it in his room to make sure he wasn't imagining anything, while his mom was away. And from that usage, he found out a few important aspects of his quirk. 1. It seems to have a time limit. Either Izuku couldn't control it, or the form needed some type of fuel to run it. 2. Whenever he did use it, he passed out right after, or he was immensely tired. That made his quirk not very versatile, to say the least. He also had no idea what he looked like while he transformed. Did he look lame? Did he look cool to others? The thought definitely excited Izuku. He whistled a catchy tune as he continued to walk on the sparkling pavement. All the days he had dodged Bakugo and his crew weren't put to waste. Izuku could count on his fingers the last time he was picked on by the blonde. Deku? I had to say it. Izuku slowly turned his head around, already bracing himself for the encounter. Bakugo looked at him with a furious expression. Why? Izuku had no idea. The angry teen waltzed towards him, not looking very terrifying in his black coat and yellow scarf wrapped around him. What the hell are you doing here? Bakugo demanded, hands up in a threatening position. Izuku's sweat dropped. Of course that was the first question Bakugo asked him. I'm here for the hero course entrance exam, Kachin, Izuku replied. Without a quirk? Are you serious? Well, I'll just try my best. HMPH. Just don't get in my way during the exam, Deku. The blonde dug his hands back into his pockets, and left with the same irritated expression that he came in with. Izuku merely stayed back, still in a weird daze from the interaction. That wasn't so bad. Maybe staying away from Bakugo helped him mature or something. Maybe his luck was becoming favorable after all. And then he tripped. Izuku brought his hands together in front of his face, bracing himself for the impact, but then he froze. He froze in midair. Are you okay? A savior. Izuku yelped in shock anyway. Steady hands corrected him back to standing position. Izuku still stood shocked, as he stared at his savior before him. Brown hair, big eyes, and weirdly red cheeks. She clapped her hands before putting one to her mouth. Sorry for not asking first. My quirk can be quite weird for people experiencing it for the first time. But, I'm pretty nervous, so I really didn't have time to think. Are you nervous as well? I think. CYA, inside then, and with a wave, she left. Izuku could only watch her retreating back in awe. Wow, my luck seriously is good. What's up, UA candidates? President Mike yelled to the crowd before him. Lemme hear you roar. Absolute silence. Mellow crowd, but not a problem. I'm the school's sole and #1 DJ, President Mike. Izuku was only gushing in awe at the hero before him. President Mike used to be a seriously popular hero, and one who he had frequently followed for a few years before. It's really him. The voice hero himself. His radio show is also amazing. It's awesome how all the teachers are pro-heroes as well. Izuku began muttering to himself. A voice behind him spoke quietly, please shut up. As you already know, the setting for this exam will be an ultra-hip urban city. 10-minute mock battles will be conducted for each of you wonderful boys and girls. They're splitting up people from the same high schools. Another voice which Izuku couldn't recognize spoke out. Obviously, it wouldn't be fair if best buddies teamed up against the others. Izuku nodded in agreement. That's right. Yes. Now what about the targets? In each center, there will be 3 types of faux villains. 1-pointer, 2-pointer, and the most prized one of all, the 3-pointer. The objective is to use your quirk to eliminate as many of them as possible, and at the same time get the highest score possible as well. There's more. You gotta keep it heroic. Ya dig? Attacking other examinees is forbidden in UA. I have a question. The boy who raised his hand was eccentric. Tall, combed hair, glasses, and a strict expression on his face. Go ahead. President Mike said. The printout which was given says there are 4 types of villains, and not the 3 that you mentioned. If this is an accidental error, I am quite disappointed. UA is the most notable school in all of Japan. For such simple mistakes it is quite shameful. Moreover, you, with the green hair. Izuku yelped as all the attention focused on him, the glare the boy directed on him not doing him any favors. Stop muttering to yourself. UA isn't a joke, and if you think it is a request for you to leave. Izuku blushed in embarrassment. Sorry. President Mike interrupted the upcoming laughter with a wave of his hands. Quiet down. Examine number 7111. You do raise a valid point. Why are there 4 mentioned villains? Well, the 4th villain isn't worth any points at all, and is merely an obstacle for y'all to deal with. I recommend you to ignore the robot entirely. The boy nodded and bowed. I see. Please excuse my distasteful comments. And that's it. I hope to see y'all do your best. Trying half-heartedly won't lead to any results. Y'all hear? Instead, you're gonna have to go beyond. How about a plus ultra? Good luck and see you in school. Izuku calmed his already pumping nerves. He needed to get into UA. 2 minutes left. Izuku panted and panted as he desperately ran through the huge city, legs aching with pain. 2 minutes left, and not a single point was achieved. He couldn't activate his quirk, not with the incredibly short time limit and the immediate tiredness he got after using it. If he used all his quirk against one robot, he certainly couldn't get more. That's why he was relentlessly looking for a situation with more than one robot, so he could stock up the points all at once. But that seemed more than impossible as the other examinees were just as determined as him. Even the girl from earlier had achieved around 30 points with her odd quirk, making his chest heave with the extra weight. The fleeting sense of despair flooded his chest once more. There was no way for him to get into UA. Destroying a minimum of 20 robots in 2 minutes? With his quirk, impossible. Even with his own quirk, he still couldn't make it. A loud rumble shook the streets of the city as an entire building crumbled to the ground. A titanic robot stood menacingly before the few examinees in the same street, its sheer size casting a large shadow before it. Izuku trembled in terror. It was the 0-pointer. I recommend you to ignore the robot entirely, President Mike had said to them all. Izuku turned his heels, starting a run for the other side of the city, far, far away from the robot behind him. Maybe he could still find some robots to destroy. Ochako whimpered in fear as she sprinted towards the clear road, her surroundings dark from the large shadow she was walking on. Parts of the buildings fell down to her sides, breaking into fragments of their original shape with a resounding crack. The zero-pointer did nothing to control her fear. The eerie, mechanical movement of the robot was a terrifying sound to listen to, especially when you were right under the machine itself. But it was fine. Seeing how slow the robot moved did assure her she would be able to escape the robot in time, and with the amount of points she had, it was safe to say she would qualify for UA. A brief feeling of excitement was felt at that thought. Then a piece of brick fell in front of her. Startled, Ochako tried to slow down. But it was too late. Her ankle contacted the object roughly, pushing her to the ground. As if her luck couldn't get any worse, another piece of rubble fell on her legs, the pain not as bad as the realization of what was going to happen. She couldn't reach the rocks on her legs with her hands either. The robot was gonna crush her. A frightened, "Ow," slowly devolved into gasps of panic. Ua wouldn't do this, right? She remembered that an entire class had been expelled before. This wasn't gonna end well. Tears built up in her eyes. She wasn't a hero yet, she was still a normal high schooler with a fancy quirk. This wasn't a team mission either. No one would save her. No one would want to save her. Ochako closed her eyes. Brum 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 brr. Izuku didn't know why he wanted to save her. Actually, he did. She was the only person nice to him the entire day. But was it worth the risk? All doubts were cleared when he pulled the cord. The sound of the engine signaled his transformation, and without hesitation, he went for the rescue. His initial plan was to just scoop her up and leave. But then he realized his chainsaws wouldn't allow for that to happen. In his transformed state, he was faster, stronger, and more vicious. That's why when he cleared the distance between him and the zero-pointer, he simply went to destroy the robot entirely. He first had to deal with the robotic hand coming towards him. Instead of dodging, he dove towards the hand, and let his chainsaws do the work for him. It was shockingly easy. The chainsaws tore through the robot's hand like butter, piercing their rotating edges into the metal without hesitation. Once his chainsaws exited the end of the hand, the robotic part fell onto the road with a crunch. Izuku roared with triumph in his head. His first doubt was dealt with. Now all he had to do was attack, attack, and attack. He jumped onto the rest of the robotic arm, and without a second to waste, he plunged both his chainsaws into the coating of the robot. Using the never-ending friction of spinning chainsaws against metal, he began running along the humongous arm of the zero-pointer. All the wires, circuits, and metals inside of the arm were cut into pieces as Izuku made his way towards the top of the robot very quickly. Keeping balance to the arm even while it frantically, albeit slowly, moved through the air would have been impossible if it weren't for his chainsaws, but Izuku wasn't one to complain about such an advantage. He was about halfway up the arm, leaving the bottom portion a battered, dysfunctional mess due to a very deep and long cut running alongside its front. Then the other arm began its move. The robot's arachnid-like eyes seemed to have spotted his movement, and made an effective counter. Before the arm could crush him entirely, he leapt into the air and landed directly on the other arm. Once again, he was running on the robot while continually destroying it with his literally chainsaw-deep hands. 10 seconds later, Izuku reached his target. The head. From the shoulder of the now unbalanced robot, Izuku leapt once more, his hands in an X position in front of his chest. Chainsaws turning, engines revving, Izuku dealt the final blow. The second his chainsaws made contact with the robot's head, Izuku slashed his chainsaws to their respective direction, creating a dramatic X gash on the robot's head, before the zero-pointer's head fell off altogether. The completely off-balance robot now began falling to its doom. And Izuku had nowhere to land, but somehow he knew he would survive. His transformation just made him feel more durable. A wave of exhaustion filled his body. Chainsaws disappeared. Some weight on his head disappeared as well, leaving him back in his regular state. "Oh no," he mumbled as he felt his eyes closing. At least he wasn't shirtless this time. The moment Recovery Girl had let him go, Izuku immediately ran towards his home. The shame at the whole ordeal was too much. Not even a single point had been earned by the green head. Izuku had spent the entire week silent and in a slightly depressed state. Even with a quirk of his own, he couldn't do anything but lose. Each day a progressive state of shame furthered Ned, except on the 6th, where he came to accept his defeat. To be fair, he didn't have the same experience with his quirk like the other students did, and his quirk wasn't very suited to the objective of the assignment. But those were all excuses. I passed the written exam, at least. Not that it matters. If not UA, there are other hero courses for me to attend. I just wanted to attend the same one as All Might. Izuku. Izuku looked to his mother, who held a letter in her shaking hands. He didn't need to look at it to know what it was. The UA entrance result. It doesn't matter if you don't make it, Izuku. I know you recently learned of your quirk, even though you won't tell me what exactly it is. Izuku smiled. It's fine, Mom. I'll just see my result. He knew his mom had no faith in him passing, but the fleeting hope was still there. He didn't exactly blame her, he had a grand total of 0 faith as well. He went into his room anxiously. While he had come to terms with his failure, he was still nervous to see the exact result. He opened the letter slowly, each movement of his finger a painful, excruciating task. Booyah! I am here as a projection now. Izuku jumped in shock as a hologram of All Might himself appeared before. All Might is collaborating with UA to reveal the results? Izuku thought with a shocked expression. Listen here. I have lots more responses to make, so we're gonna make this short and sweet. Izuku gulped. You managed to do well in the written test, congratulations. However, a score of 0 was reported during your practical exam. Izuku nodded in resigned acceptance. He might as well leave the room right now. Fortunately, villain points weren't the only factors in grading our students. View this clip, please. The brown-haired girl he saved showed up. Sorry to interrupt, but I really have to say this. You know that plain-looking boy who kept on mumbling to himself in the auditorium? Green hair, I think? I was wondering whether I could give him some of my points? He saved me while wasting his own time, you know? Izuku gasped. Present Mike only smiled, eyes sparkling with amusement. That's very kind of you, but there's really no need. The kid's done quite fine on his own. All Might appeared once more. Rescue points are appointed to those who are heroes by heart, and not a mere judgment of their quirks against villains. We are a hero course at heart. Not some brain-dead competition that looks at points. How would we ever reject you, young Midoriya? With 60 rescue points, you pass with flying colors. The girl as well, of course. It felt like a dream. He felt tears of joy running down his face. He felt all the raw emotion in his chest as it escaped as a choked sob. Prepare yourself, young Midoriya. This isn't your dream school anymore. This is UA High, your hero academia. UA faculty simply watched in horror as the video playing on the screen repeated itself for the 3rd time. One teacher spoke out what was in everyone's mind. That isn't a hero's quirk. Aizawa never liked when teachers said anything remotely similar to that. Children couldn't control what quirks they were born with. It wasn't the quirk that made someone a villain, it was the villain itself. But the sheer viciousness the boy had struck the robot and how horrifying his transformation looked, he couldn't blame the others. No matter how many good deeds the boy could do as a hero, he would be shunned by a good crowd for his appearance alone. It doesn't matter how scary it looks. Y'all hear me? That was straight awesome. Present Mike exclaimed with a fist to the air. His enthusiasm didn't spread well to the others. What about the other examinees? Present Mike asked, trying to spark some kind of conversation in the oddly silent room. Cementos cleared his throat. Well, the number 1 examinee seems to be the clear standout. Katsuki Bakugo, not a single rescue point needed to pass. An impressive quirk to say. Aizawa was zoned out of the conversation. His mind continued to focus on the boy from before. Not because of what his quirk was, but because of how it looked. It was disturbingly similar to a villain they had once encountered. Switch the chainsaws with. I have to tell Nezu about this. Getting a personal call from UA itself was nerve-wracking enough, but then coupling it up with having to go to the school in person was even worse. His mom had looked at him with worried eyes, but he had simply told her it was an introductory class. He was at the UA entrance, this time as a student of the academy, but for some reason, he felt more anxious than before. As expected, there were no other students gathered. Why had they called him specifically? But deep inside, he knew the reason, or at least a part of it. His quirk, if he could even call it that. Izuku Midoriya? The boy in question snapped his head to the right. A white, abnormally tall mouse stood boldly, its hands tucked behind its back. A clean scar crossed its right eye, not feral enough to make the creature look intimidating in the slightest. The suit it wore didn't help the cause either. A hand. Paw. Put itself up in greeting. I'm Principal Nezu of UA. A pleasure to meet you, Izuku. Oh hello. Wait, did you just say Princi? The mouse interrupted quickly. As much as I would like to talk, and I know exactly how abrupt this whole meeting is, there is quite an urgent issue which we have to resolve immediately. Again, I sincerely apologize for any inconveniences, but we must hurry, Midoriya-san. You aren't in any trouble, either. Izuku just felt confused, the pumping of his heart dying down a bit, but he relented anyway. Of course, sir. He followed Nezu deeper into the labyrinth that was UA, eager but also worried to find out why they called him here. They reached a dark brown door inside one of the hallways. Izuku followed the principal inside. The room was spacious, bigger than what Izuku expected. The first thing he noticed was the large TV which was placed at the front. The large number of seats and papers scattered around the room made the purpose of the setting obvious. This was where they observed the examinees. The lack of teachers was painfully obvious. There was absolute no hero in sight. Is this the boy? Izuku could only flinch in surprise at the deep voice that echoed slightly in the otherwise empty room. Principal Nezu facepalmed. Yes, it is. I would appreciate it if you didn't intimidate the student beforehand, however. The only thing visible about the man in the dark environment surrounding them was his scraggly hair and white scarf. The man sat down in a vacant chair before him. We are interrogating him, correct? Interrogate. Me? Principal Nezu, noticing Izuku's discomfort, quickly intervened. An interrogation which doesn't entirely involve the person in question, yes. After all, this is simply coming from a hitch on your side. Izuku could tell the scarfed man was glaring without the lights. A hitch? You call this a hitch? Don't play around, Nezu. This isn't just a coincidence, you know it isn't. The mouse sighed. A coincidence, it most definitely isn't. But does that give you a right to act tough with a kid who probably doesn't know anything about it? Not at all. Whatever, let's just start. Where's Sukachi? I decided not to bring him. Aizawa's glare deepened. Again, this is only a meeting to see how the boy responds, and whether he knows anything about him. Police will not be needed. Aizawa nodded his head in acceptance, before closing his eyes and leaning back in his chair. Izuku's sweat dropped. This guy is weird. Principal Nezu focused his eyes back on Izuku, who felt his heart rate spike at the sudden attention. He palmed a remote before pressing a single button. This is a picture of your performance during the entrance exam. And there he was. What the Izuku blanched. No and nah, that can't be me, he began to say, only to be interrupted right after. It's you. He stood up in fear. That thing he stared at couldn't be him. He wasn't that terrifying, that revolting to look at. A hero was someone who could make anyone smile, and a quirk was a main part of that. If a hero's quirk made themselves grimace, how would he make anyone feel hope? Nezu sighed. I won't lie to you, Izuku Midoriya. Your quirk isn't regular. But it's not the quirk that decides a hero's quirk. It's their actions. You get to decide your own future as a hero. I can't stress that enough. But enough of that, we have to get back to business. He clicked another button. This is a villain that Aizawa, the man next to us, and some other few heroes encountered while on duty. It is confirmed to be a mutant-type quirk, as Aizawa wasn't able to disable it. I'm sure you can see why we called you. Izuku nodded in even more fear. Dark trench coat, hat, and full pants. But the katanas embedded into his head and arms were obviously the distinctive features. In the bleak darkness that the photo was taken in, many of the features were blurred, but Izuku could see how villainous the villain looked. The quirk was frighteningly similar to his. An image of a red dog came to his head. Maybe, your quirk allows you to transform into a mutant when you pull on the cord on your chest, and gives you enhanced agility and strength. The unnamed villain we see here most likely has a similar quirk, unless the hunch is just a hunch. But finding similarities between already irregular quirks is not a coincidence. What that gives you sees far more terrifying. Someone with a quirk like that can be hidden like a regular human anywhere, and we may never know. Izuku, do you have any idea about this person? Nezu asked seriously. Izuku could only frown. I have never seen him in my life. Principal Nezu sighed. That's what I expected, I guess. You may go now, Izuku. Do you require an escort? I'll be fine. Thank you very much. With a bow, Izuku went for the exit. He could have spoken about the thing fusing with him, but something made him not want to, and if he had a feeling the world wouldn't be ready for it. Plus, he didn't want any more attention on him or his quirk. He was glad to be in Ua, after all. All that business with the katana villain wasn't a part of his business, even if it somehow seemed to be. And his quirk. Izuku grimaced. A week later. Izuku, is everything ready? His mom's voice cleared all the exhilaration in his head. He nodded. Yep. Did you pack your books? Nod. Pens? Another nod. Izuku smiled. I'll be fine, Mom. I need to go, don't want to be late for the first day. He opened the door. Izuku, I'm really proud of you. The green-haired boy grinned. You bet. Finding his classroom was tough. The academy was incredibly huge, a single building probably bigger than his middle school. Class 1 Aether it is. With a deep breath, he opened the door. I insist that you take off your feet this instant. This amount of disrespect during the first day is unacceptable and violates school property. Izuku resisted a groan as Bakugo and the glasses kid from before began arguing. My name is Tenya Iida from some private academy. This behavior wouldn't be accepted over there, much less in Ua. Some. So you're a rich snob, huh? Whatever, destroying you will be even more fun. Threatening your own classmate? Iida asked, bewildered. He shook his head in disbelief, before his eyes met Izuku. His eyes brightened in recognition. Oh, hello. He put a solemn hand to his chest. I'm 10. I heard. I'm Izuku Midoriya, awesome to meet you. Tenya's eyes gleamed. I must apologize for my impudence during the entrance exam. I should have known that there was something more to the exam. Perceptive to a fault. As expected from a fellow Ua student. Izuku just stared at him before shaking the confusion away. Okay. Oh, you, green hair. Izuku turned around, to find the nice girl from the entrance exam. Hello. I wasn't really able to see what you did, but the way you beat the robot was amazing. Izuku blushed, even though he didn't really agree with that after seeing how he looked. In fact, he was glad the girls didn't see his quirk. Ah, I guess I should be thanking you? For talking to the examiners, I mean. Huh? Where did you learn about that? Izuku fumbled the next sentence completely, probably because he could feel Bakugo's glare from behind him. Considering their last encounter in their old school, he wouldn't be surprised if Bakugo still thought he was quirkless. And he was able to overhear him defeating the giant robot. This wasn't going to end well. I'm so hyped for today. The orientation is obviously gonna be awesome, but other than that, I really want to know what the teachers are like, Ochako gushed. If you're here to fool around and make friends, I suggest you leave immediately. His ears perked. Izuku knew that voice. Ochako slightly yelped as she realized the voice was from behind her. A yellow sleeping bag laid still on the floor, zipped all the way until a tired, scraggly-haired man's face poked out from the entrance. Izuku gasped. Aizawa. This is your first day of the Ua Hero course. For now, all of you are disappointing. 8 seconds to shut up. Not quick enough. My name is Shota Aizawa, your homeroom teacher. For now, put these on. Everyone kept on a face of shock. Why is my luck so terrible? A quirk assessment test? Don't we have an orientation? This isn't fair. Pointless, pointless, pointless. Time is precious if you want to become big. It's my class, and therefore I can run my lessons however I want. Ua isn't like regular schools. Doesn't mean you can just skip the orientation. We've all had to do the standardized tests to gauge our fitness during middle school and elementary, but Japan never allowed actual quirks to be used during those instances. Which is totally illogical considering some are born as mutant types, but I digress. Bakugo, you scored the highest on the entrance exam, Aizawa continued. Can you recall how long you could throw a softball in junior high? 67 meters, Bakugo replied. Fine then. He threw a ball to Bakugo, who caught it with ease. Go to that circle and try throwing it again, this time, with your quirk. As long as you stay in the circle, anything is allowed. Bakugo only laughed evilly. Anything? Watch this then, old man. Die. A large explosion escaped from the boy's hands, making it almost impossible to see the ball escape his grip, but it was obvious it went far. Learning your maximum capabilities is crucial for gauging your potential as a hero. See this. Gasps of awe erupted from the students. 700 meters. That's amazing. That's awesome. I want to go next. Seems fun. Hell no, I'm going next. Using our quirks all we want is definitely fun. Aizawa's words cleaved through all the excitement. Fun? You think this is for fun? 3 years. Do you assume it will be filled with games, playing, and having fun? Idiots. There will be 8 physical tests assigned to everyone, scores will be accordingly taken, and whoever comes last will be expelled. Crap. 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 Expulsion? Physical tests? Is he trying to get rid of me? I can't use my quirk in front of everyone? An invisible girl consisting of only floating clothes spoke out. This isn't fair. We just got into school. Life is unfair, kid, deal with it. Tornadoes, earthquakes, are these all fair too? Monstrous villains who kill for no reason, is that fair? You want to be heroes? Then learn to expect unfairness. This isn't junior high, brats. We aren't trying to teach you to pass an exam. We're teaching you to save people. Aizawa sighed. There's gonna be a lot more than surprise tests for the next few years, and if you can't handle thesis, expect you to leave right now and save the least physically capable of you all. It's UA. Aren't you supposed to go plus ultra in the face of hardships? I'm in last place, Izuku mumbled to himself in exhaustion. Ochako looked at the results, shocked by what she saw. Was it really the same boy who completely destroyed the 0-pointer? In the end, he hasn't used his quirk once. Ochako got infinity on the ball throw. Bakugo aced all the exams with his quirk, and Iida easily passed with his agility. And Izuku, with his out-of-shape body, did worse than a quirkless person. Everyone looked between Izuku and Aizawa carefully. Izuku looked at Aizawa, whose face was solemn. The neutral expression on his face was terrifying. Until it started to crack. A grin slowly crept up on their teacher's face. No one's getting expelled. It was just a ruse to make you guys do your best. Huh? Of course it. Izuku tuned out the voice, his own relief enveloping all of his senses. Everyone, go back to classes, you'll find some important papers. Izuku, stay back for a bit. The other students looked at Izuku in pity but went away nonetheless, except for Bakugo, who sneered before putting his hands into his pockets like always. Izuku went to the teacher with obvious shame in his eyes. Aizawa's expression remained constant. You didn't use your quirk. Izuku gulped. Yes, sir. Why? My quirk isn't suited for these types of exams. I can't throw a ball with chainsaws, sir. Nor can I fully control my quirk either. A brief pause. Now tell me the real reason. Izuku froze. How did he know? He slowly contemplated his answer. I'm afraid. Aizawa's look made him elaborate further. You saw my quirk. It's not heroic like the rest of them. I'm not myself when I transform. I don't know why. Moreover, my quirk is horrifying to even look at. How will I become a hero if others don't instantly smile when they see me? My classmates, they'll be scared too. His teacher chuckled. I can tell you're an All Might fanboy. Listen here, not every hero is fit to be the symbolic figure of peace and heroism. Does anyone look at me and smile? And aren't you selling your classmates short? What's to say they will be scared? I'm not the correct teacher for giving pep talks. Kid, you're gonna have to use that quirk of yours eventually. And if you don't, you won't ever be a hero. Izuku clenched his hands. You won't ever be a hero. He hated those words so much. What was stopping him from using his quirk? Why did he have to care about what others thought? As long as he was doing the right thing, nothing else mattered. A look of determination crossed his features. "Sensei, I won't let you down. All Might, I'm gonna prove you wrong. I will become a hero. Somewhere, sometime. Have the preparations begun? Of course. I have already made ties with the League of Villains. And the Chainsaw Devil? We've lost track of it. Could it be? That's what we're thinking as well. A drawn-out sign. Our power is weak in this world. Stories of devils are long since forgotten in this world of quirks. The only way to get stronger is to make them fear us as villains, and to do that. Understood, we'll get right to it. Cut the call." An ominous, echoing laugh bellowed. "We're coming for you, Chainsaw Devil." "Well, that was quite a disappointing session," Aizawa said with a disappointed glare directed at everyone. Izuku shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his mind running to the conversation he had before. "Just from that brief interaction, I can say this with confidence. You guys aren't ready to become heroes, not yet, anyways. You will have another team exercise tomorrow, but I won't be the instructor there. Yes, I can finally show my quirk for real," Izuku thought with a determined look. He wanted to be a hero, and if he couldn't even show his quirk, he would use it this time, no matter the consequence. "Really? Who's our teacher?" a frog-looking girl asked from behind him. Aizawa grimaced. "You'll see." Izuku glanced at the clock. 8 a.m. "Crap. I need to go. Did you pack your lunch?" His mom's voice rang from within the kitchen. "Yes, bye." Izuku ran out of his house eagerly, his speed boosted by his excitement and the fear of arriving late. The silver cord attached to his chest wiggled relentlessly as the green-haired boy propelled his legs with all of his might. Left. Right. Straight. Left again. He was excited because today was the day he could finally use his quirk. Aizawa's words from yesterday had rang in his ears for the entire night. Why would they be afraid of his quirk? Bakugo could literally create explosions similar to stacks of dynamite in a mere second. What did he compare to that? Besides, it's not like Izuku had to use his quirk. Considering Aizawa said it was a team-based activity, he might be better off not using it at all. Either way, it wouldn't matter. He came to Ua to learn. And how could he learn if he never used his quirk? That's right. I'm going to use my quirk today no matter what. That is, if he got to Ua first. Where am I? Izuku managed out as he looked around himself. A random street, but one he recognized. It was a good thing he only took one wrong turn, or else he seriously would have been late to class. He felt a slight rumbling under his feet. Izuku paused. He looked around himself. It was the usual, people walking, cars driving, and the general hustle of the city. The rumbling only got louder, and then swwchh. A paining, ear-splitting noise pierced through his soul. It wasn't like a cat's nails scratching the door, or a rough eraser on paper. No, it was worse. A sword pierced through the road to the side of him. On closer inspection, it wasn't just any sword, it was a katana. The shock kept Izuku still. Everyone else swerved their necks to see the spectacle. A katana sticking out in the middle of nowhere. Why? The car in front of the katana continued honking away, its slick, smooth surface reflecting the katana dangerously on its hood. The man got out of his car in annoyance. Shutting the door, he opened vigorously. Izuku held his breath, and so did the small crowd which gathered around the spectacle. It seemed innocent at first glance. In a world where a majority have quirks, a simple katana embedded into the ground was harmless enough. Testing his luck, the man placed a hand on the sword. In hindsight, that was clearly not that smart of an idea. The rest of the earth around the katana gave away. Fragments of road blasted apart as the katana seemed to elongate. Noit was simply revealing itself to be larger, part of something more. The smoke of dust slowly disappeared, revealing something wicked behind it. The person was dressed in a dark trench coat, the thick cloth stretching till a bit below his waist. The similarly black hat placed on its head, along with black pants in the mix. Izuku trembled in fear as he felt his feet falter. He needed to run, but something stopped him. The katana attached to his left hand, and the one piercing through his own head, coupled with the one sword deep inside a man's body, covering the glinting metal with ruby blood, brought him back to the investigation he had yesterday. What were the chances? It was the exact same person Principal Nezu had shown him. Well, that didn't matter at all, did it? Izuku wasn't even near a level where he could beat real villains. It was his second day of school. No, he needed to run, for his own survival. My suspicions were true, Deku. You need to end this man. What? Me? Fight? This monstrosity? The dog living in his chest actually spoke for the first time in a while. Ever since the alleyway incident, it had remained silent. Izuku had tried speaking to it before, but he had no response. For it to speak now, this monster before him had to be something important. This is a hero's job. I can't do this on my own. I'm technically not allowed to use my quirk here, Izuku thought back violently. Screams echoed shortly after. The katana thing continued to remain still, before dropping the man to the floor. Was he dead? Someone seriously needed to inform heroes. Another scream. People exited their cars in panic, running from the monster with urgency. An aura of panic and fear washed over Izuku, dousing him in the horrible situation. The smell of death, and the premonition of more to come. I sense your fear, Deku. Izuku began walking backwards. He could feel it too. Do you want it to go away? His walk became a jog. A weird sense of deja vu flooded the teen. Pull me. Izuku stopped jogging. He was a hero. What kind of hero would let innocence in front of him, knowing he could have changed the result? What kind of hero would run away without second thought? What kind of hero would let emotions like fear trample him without any fight back? A faker. The one thing Izuku never wanted to be. He put a sole finger under his shirt, and with a final, deep breath, Izuku pulled. Brum brum burr chainsaws replaced his once feeble arms. His head was replaced with a chainsaw of its own, but Izuku could still see. He crossed the distance between himself and the katana thing with a few steps. The devil moved its head in surprise, unable to react in time. Izuku immediately dug a chainsaw into its body, already seeing an image of him cutting through the waist of the devil in one quick slice. But that didn't happen. His own chainsaw got caught in the crook of two katanas placed expertly to the sides of his weapon, and before Izuku could move his other hand over, he was roughly kicked in the stomach by a black boot. He gasped in pain, a rustic sound coming out of Highsmith. He was knocked back a few meters, but managed to gather his footing. The katana man has abilities similar to your own. As of now, you have zero chance of winning. Then why did you make me fight him? Izuku shouted in his mind, panting as the devil rushed forward once more. Izuku met him in the middle, his spinning chainsaws clashing with the still, serene katanas opposing him. Sparks flew as the fight continued to ravage the streets of Mustafu. He never was too interested in martial arts, but he seriously wished he had taken the lessons in the local dojo when he had the chance. While his chainsaws were superior to the katanas on his opponent, the man simply was more experienced at fighting. It was becoming painfully clear that he was entirely outclassed. This wasn't a fight, it was suicide. But Izuku didn't stop. If he needed to beat this devil, he couldn't do it in a straight fight. He needed to find a weakness, if any were even there. Izuku lunged to the left as a katana cut through the air of where he previously was. But he didn't manage to dodge it fully, for the katana sliced through a piece of his torso, bringing out crimson blood for the world to see. But that didn't matter. He responded similarly, lunging forward with chainsaws of his own. I've got you. Izuku yelled inwardly. The katana man's footing was off. The second his chainsaws were about to tear through the man's waist, he bent his entire body backwards. It was so unnatural, so freaky, and so unexpected that Izuku tripped past him entirely. His momentum didn't stop, however, and Izuku rolled and rolled onto the asphalt road, before a branch stopped him. Have no fear, citizens. Kamui Woods is here. These villains stand no chance at all. Kamui Woods? Villains? Izuku quickly felt branches surrounding his body, enclosing him in a cocoon of wood. The cold wood covered every part of his body except for his head, allowing him to breathe. The cold eyes of Kamui under his wooden mask stared at him with detest. He pointed a finger at Izuku, and spoke with a haughty tone. Do not try anything, villain. I am here to apprehend you if you do. Was he trying to speak like All Might? Whatever, it didn't matter. I'm not a villain. Izuku's voice, a creaking mess, somehow managed out. The hero snorted. HMPH. As expected from a villain of your caliber. Enough. I will have to deal with your friend first. Kamui raised a hand to his ear behind his mask, an annoyed look coming on his eyes. Yes, yes. I've got one. You. And you? HMMIC. Back up? No'll finish it off myself. Kamui left him like so, running towards Katana Man with a bounce in his step. Izuku shouted loudly, begging to be released, but the hero paid him no attention. He needed to get out of this binding. Fortunately enough, it would appear that his quirk was made for cutting. Literally. He aimed his head downwards, the chainsaw which protruded outwards cleanly cutting through the wood binding his chest. With a strained gasp, he pulled his hands out, cutting through the remaining cocoon with his quirk. He needed to help Kamui Woods. With a frantic look in his eyes, Izuku rushed towards the commotion ahead. Kamui was surprised at how agile his opponent was. His quirk only seemed to be the transformation itself, so how was he moving so quickly? Whatever, it looked better on camera anyways. He threw a bundle of branches straight at the man, who leapt upwards onto the attack itself, each second covering several meters at once. Kamui released his assault and retreated a few steps. If this revolves into close combat, it won't end well for me. I need to keep my range. And Kamui was sure the villain knew that as well. Seeing his enemy coming, Kamui yelled his next move. Lacquered chain prison. An assortment of branches erupted from his hands and surrounded the man in a strong binding with lightning speed, covering him from the rest of the world. The villain struggled, but in the end remained still. Kamui let his hands down in exhaustion. Kamui went to his knees. Finally, swip. Swip. Katanas sliced through his wood in 2 quick motions, leaving a gaping hole in his makeshift prison. Kamui made a mistake. He should have asked for backup. Getting up on his legs, he prepared to fight back against the monster that was slowly walking towards him, katanas menacingly pointing at him. The sound of turning chainsaws filled his ears. Let me help, sir. I'm an UA student, not a villain. The uniform was indeed UA's, but that wasn't complete confirmation. Kamui stared into the eyes of the devil itself. He saw something more than just the chainsaws. Determination. He could refuse, but that would mean his own death. Why not take the chance? Let's do this then, Chainsaw Kid, Kamui said, putting his hands together. A scary, metallic grunt responded in confirmation. Izuku looked at the approaching villain in apprehension, before rushing forwards. Kamui released a torrent of wood at the same time, running parallel to himself. Using the opportunity, Izuku hid behind the branches, before jumping out at the last second. Katana Man sliced through the incoming barrage of wood, but even he wasn't aware of Izuku's own attack. Izuku brought a chainsaw straight to his head, but only managed to gash his chest. But a hit was a hit, especially when it was delivered by a chainsaw. Izuku looked at his own hand in awe. With Kamui's help, he could do this. He dashed towards the devil without any hesitation, finding himself in another lock of weapons. Katana versus chainsaw. Kamui Woods didn't let the bout last for long. Watch out. Izuku leapt backwards as Kamui's signature attack flooded the streets from below him, its aim true in nature. Kamui came beside him. This guy is tough. Tell me something I don't know. Izuku grumbled in his head. The cut on his side had somehow healed, but the pain managed to linger. Instead of multiple branches, can you make stronger, thicker ones? Izuku asked. Yeah, I can. But what's the point if he can chop them apart anyways? By the time Kamui finished his question, Izuku was already running. Trusting that Kamui would heed his words, he began his own assault. Sure enough, a thick, meter-long plank of wood began moving beside him, both of them sharing the same target. Izuku urges his pace, urging his legs to move faster and push stronger. As expected, Katana Man did the same move as always, leaping upwards as a means to dodge the tree entirely, and at the same time preparing for Izuku's own move. But Izuku was ready. Bending his knees, he jumped onto the mobile branch next to him. Kamui gasped. What the? Izuku struggled to maintain his balance. Having to stay upright on branches that were moving so quickly was more than tough. But somehow he managed, and before long, he had a makeshift surfboard. The branch soared into the air, bringing a nimble teen along with it. Izuku roared in excitement. He did it, but the tough part was yet to come. 3, 2, 1 now. He vaulted himself into the air with a running start, directly into the katana man. Chainsaws facing forwards, he yelled with satisfaction as his saws dug into the unsuspecting villain. When Katana Man jumped, he had practically trapped himself. There was no way to move while in midair. A fight broke out while both of them were falling. Katana Man pushed and slashed, but Izuku relented. He needed to get Katana Man to the ground. A few seconds later, both of them fell to the road with a loud thud. Izuku groaned in pain, but didn't let go of the chainsaws. He continued to spin them sharply, not letting a millisecond go to waste. Tentacles of wood came past him and onto the Katana Man, swallowing him up in a wave of nature. This time, the branches made sure to immobilize both hands of the villain, attaching the katanas to the rough asphalt. That wasn't too bad, right? Kamui questioned from behind him. Good job, kid. Izuku let go of his hold, his transformation dying midway out of sheer exhaustion. The sound of police sirens was the only thing he heard before he passed out. Awake. Izuku drowsily opened his eyes, not sure of his surroundings. He put some energy into his arms, bringing his upper body up. Where am I? He asked. UA High School. Medic room. It's the least I could do after you helped me, right? Izuku blinked. He fought with Kamui Woods. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that I just fought with a hero. Kamui Woods at that. I'm a big fan actually. I've been keeping track of you ever since your first fight with Big Claw a few years ago. Izuku gushed, eyes comically wide. Kamui's sweat dropped. This is the same person I thought was a villain? The hero waved his hands. You're a fanboy then? Izuku nodded, confused. Of course I am. Kamui Woods sighed. Why did you get into the fight to begin with? Images of the Katana Man entered Izuku's head, reliving the entire experience in a span of 2 seconds. Further images of the dead body in the man's hands came soon after. He killed someone. I couldn't just let him go like that, Izuku responded, head down. First of all, that man isn't dead, Kamui informed. What? Well, he should have been, but his quirk was something related to healing, and he managed to survive. But forget that, you used your quirk in public, whether it was for self-defense or not. I don't blame you, but someone needs to report this, kid, Kamui said, hands on his mask in a tired manner. Izuku felt his heart drop. Am I in trouble? Technically speaking, you are still a minor. This would have been a whole different situation if there was an adult in your place. Plus you kind of saved my life, assuming I couldn't have handled the villain by myself, so I'm willing to let this one slide. Well, that couldn't have turned out any better. Izuku smiled, grateful. What happened to the villain? Kamui's eyes hardened. We managed to detain him. The entire city had a series of attacks at once, which is why the hero force was late to arrive. There seems to be a higher power over these villains, controlling where they attacked. Not good at all. Enough. You're just a student. Don't care too much about this yet. Once you become a pro, I'll welcome you at my agency, if you want. For now, get back to class. What if they ask why I'm late? I've got that covered. All the teachers know what happened by now, but just tell the other students you were late, or something. Izuku swallowed the fear in his throat. Thank goodness nothing worse happened. If Kamui hadn't come in the middle. Thanks a lot, sir, Izuku barked, saluting on the spot. Kamui made his way out. Make sure to spread the word. Kamui Woods, future top 10 hero. Recovery girl quickly checked him over one last time, before issuing him to leave. My bag, Izuku realized. He must have left it back at the fight. Your bag? Oh, Kamui left it here for you, recovery girl said, reading his mind. Izuku hauled the bag over his shoulder, grateful once again for the hero's thoughtfulness. He needed to get back to class. You missed so much, Midoriya-san, Ochako exclaimed with an exaggerated expression. Izuku took a step back, surprised. Really? Ochako continued, full force. You wouldn't believe who our teacher was. Whoever it was had to be quite popular, or else the entire class wouldn't be chattering with that stargazed expression for this long. The hero had to be someone in the top 10. So why not guess for the number 1? All Might did send him the message during the entrance examination anyways. All Might. What? How did you know? Ochako asked, clearly startled. I just guessed. Well, he did teach us. It was, like, so cool. He put us in teams and made us play capture the flag, sorta. Me and Iida actually won. All Might praised me for how I played. Cool, right? Izuku felt the start of a headache slowly take over. He didn't really have the same enthusiasm as he once did. Yo Midoriya-san. Why'd you come late? Denki Kaminari asked as he entered the classroom. Well, here goes. I was actually feeling unwell in my stomach, so I visited the doctor this morning. I'm much better now though, so I decided to just come. Please tell me that was convincing. Kaminari gave a thumbs up. No problem. Anyways, you missed an awesome class with All Might. Izuku wasn't very interested but wanted to talk anyway. Yeah, I heard. What were the teams? Well, it was me and another voice interrupted him. Hey, Deku. And there he is. Kachan. Bakugo sneered. How long are you going to stay here? What do you mean? Izuku asked, confused. You're quirkless. Isn't that why you didn't come today? Too scared for everyone to realize you don't have a quirk? Oh right, he still thinks I don't have a quirk. Deku does have a. Ochako began, immediately cut off by Izuku himself. Izuku stepped forward, matching the blonde boy in height. I do have a quirk. Sparks flew from the blonde's hands. Then show it. Oh, he was tempted. He was so tempted to pull the trigger and prove the boy in front of him wrong. Prove his friend wrong. That's what he had been trying to do his entire life. But control mattered more. The hand sneaking up to his chest dropped. A smile came over Izuku's face. I don't want to. Bakugo snorted. HMPH. That's what I thought. That's not the right manner to speak to friends. Katsuki-san. Iida droned from the other side of the classroom. Shut it. Side character. Bakugo growled. The spiky blonde seemed to have been satisfied with his part, and promptly sat on his chair, legs on top of the desk. Iida, quite predictably, immediately began ranting. I thought you and Bakugo were friends, Ochako said. Izuku grimaced. It's complicated, and that was an understatement. Okay anyways, I'll be going now, Ochako said, waving goodbye. Most probably to change. Dang it, I couldn't see my hero suit, Izuku realized. He had requested something with vibrant green, to match his hair, but Izuku was the first to admit that a suit really wasn't required for a quirk like his. Honestly, it would most probably hinder him if anything. Although a heat-resistant suit would certainly be useful to have. But considering how his quirk managed to make him regenerate somehow, it didn't seem to matter too much. The rest of the day went along swiftly with normal classes. After the adrenaline-filled fight with Katana Man, and the teamwork he had done with Kamui Woods himself, everything else just happened to feel boring, or otherwise tedious. The fight, the split-second decisions that chose the difference between life and death, the overwhelming feeling of joy when he managed to hit the villainate was intoxicating. Dare he say, addicting. Izuku went home that day in a good mood. How is it like being taught by All Might? A reporter asked rapidly, urging a mic towards Izuku's face. Izuku's sweat dropped. I'm in the support class, I wouldn't know. The reporter's face dropped, before her eyes locked onto another student. Get out of my way, extras, Bakugo yelled as he made his way through the gathered crowd. It's the kid from the sludge incident. Izuku had expected that All Might's presence in a school would certainly attract attention, but he didn't think the reporters would gather at the gates of the school of all places. Regardless, the public would certainly question the decision by their number one hero viciously. Why would such a person waste their time trying to teach some upstart students? Izuku personally had the same question, but didn't dare question it. He couldn't care less about what All Might wanted to say. He made his way into class with a sigh, plopping his back next to the chair. All right, pick a president. What? It was one day after the whole Katana Man GWAS finally getting back to the classroom groove. And then this had to happen. The class erupted into an instantaneous wave of speeches, everyone wanting to be the class president. I want to be class president, me. The position was practically made for me. Izuku also felt like the position would be fun. It would certainly be useful in the future. Being class president in Ua High School of all places was a good addition to his own portfolio. An overall good foundation for someone wanting to make it big in the heroic department. Even Bakugo seemed pumped. Enough. A brazen voice pierced through everyone with a single word. Tenya Iida places a hand on his glasses, pushing them up exaggeratingly. The position of class president isn't a mere joke. It serves as the symbol of a general consensus and trust in one individual. Only someone with the ability and the capability to run the position should have the job, and thus the only solution is to settle this with a vote. And the vote happened. 0? Iida exclaimed with a shocked expression. Izuku was similarly shocked. 2 votes? Who voted for me? I wasn't even present during the team exercise yesterday. Tenya Iida offered a hand. Congratulations Midoriya, you have bested me. That makes President Yaoyorozu and Vice President Midoriya. Bakugo glared. Deku? Who the hell voted for him? Izuku couldn't blame him. 20 minutes later, they found themselves in the cafeteria. Vice President Midoriya, thank you for sitting next to us, Ochako said, chuckling. Izuku rolled his eyes, instead eating a rice ball on his plate. I don't even know how I got the position, to be honest. Self-awareness is a good quality, Midoriya. It makes sense why you were vice president, Yaoyorozu, however, I'm not as sure. And why wouldn't you be, Iida? Yaoyorozu interrupted from behind them. Speak of the devil. Iida looked startled for a brief second, before returning to normal. I haven't talked to you as much, and therefore cannot make an assumption so early. In terms of combat as well, your quirk is quite useful, but I don't know whether or not you are reliable. Then couldn't you say the same for Midoriya? He hasn't actually fought with you either. You don't even know his quirk, Yaoyorozu stated in a passive manner. Why did my name end up being said? Izuku thought, dreading the upcoming conversation. Iida nodded, accepting the point. What exactly is your quirk, Midoriya? Beep. 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 Security level 3 has been breached. Students, please promptly evacuate, a monotone, robotic voice alerted. Someone has infiltrated the school grounds, everyone run. What? We're all gonna die. Stop pushing. Izuku quickly got onto the cafeteria desks, avoiding the sudden surge of students towards the exits. Ochako and Iida both got swallowed in, but managed to stay relatively near. A security breach, here? With news of All Might as a teacher? No way that's true unless... Izuku's eyes widened. President Yaoyorozu. Make a loudspeaker, Izuku yelled, making sure to be heard in the commotion around them. What? Quickly. Yaoyorozu struggled to get out of the crowd, but did it anyway. Red and blue particles collided and reacted around her hand to produce the desired object. Wow, that's cool. She threw the object into the air, which quickly found its place in Izuku's hands. Everyone. There has not been a breach, Izuku shouted into the loudspeaker, his voice amplified a dozen times. What? What does he mean? It's just the press, there's no need to evacuate, look outside if you want. And just like that, the entire cafeteria managed to quiet down to a few hushed conversations. It was amazing how much power a few words could hold. They went back to their classrooms soon after. Good job, Midoriya, Honta Siro said with a brief round of applause. At least we know why he's the vice president, Ochako exclaimed. Izuku looked embarrassed at the praise. I just did what I was supposed to do. Classes ended quickly, leaving Izuku thinking about his afternoon. Ochako tapped his shoulder. Midoriya, Izuku asked, trying not to blush at the proximity. Me and some of the others are going to a cafe after this, wanna come? It will be, so fun? Yes, Midoriya. I find it a good way to increase our knowledge of another for further help in future battles. Iida stated, glasses shining. I'll guess all the stacked up pocket money finally found its use. Yeah, sure, to be continued. I hope you enjoyed this story. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.